2.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We're back online again. Sorry we had a few technical difficulties, but we're back now. In the background is playing the music of our guest, Adora. She's here with us live. But before we move on, let's just share again, because obviously the links we shared initially are no longer valid. So we're going to share the videos again. And the music is from her latest album. It's called Nothing Can Hold Me Down by Adora, Adaora. Yes. We're about to kick off the show tonight. I'm just sharing a few more links. All right. 8:31.
We're ready.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to this episode of the Gospel Today show. Today is the 14th day of June. 2018, and it's amazing to see everyone. It's been a couple of weeks since we've been on air, and so much has happened, and we're going to be touching on them. But before we move forward, I'd like to introduce the man himself, Carl.
Yes, sir. It's good to be back. It's been 2 weeks, and I'm glad to be here again.
That's awesome. Hey, we're going to sing.
It's summertime.
So we're going to sing "Happy Birthday" for Carl later in the show, because
after a certain age, you don't really celebrate his birthday.
His birthday is on Saturday.
It reminds you of your mortality. I should get older.
No, you're getting younger. Don't mind it. Okay. And tonight our guest is in the house. Her name is Adora. How are you doing, Adora? Awesome.
Excited to be here.
That's beautiful. That is awesome. And one of the questions, the first question we ask every guest that comes here is, what is the gospel to you?
The gospel is a lot of things. To me, it's the word of God. It's living a life where you're exemplifying God, actually like having a personification of God.
Awesome.
In how you interact with people, not necessarily just an act that people have kind of like internalized and say, okay, you have to dress a certain way to be Christian. Mm-hmm. It's actually doing the work. Mm-hmm. People see the evidence of you living out your life for Christ. So I think the gospel is a lot of things. I mean, it's the word of God, of course, but I mean, just you really being one with God in your approach to life and how you interact with people, I think is the main thing.
Awesome. That was an awesome definition of the gospel. I want to ask you a couple of questions about how did it all start for you? Why gospel music? Why not R&B, soul, jazz? Why did you choose to do gospel music?
First of all, music started for me at a very tender age. I kind of discovered that I could sing, and I had a lot of people around me that encouraged me. My aunt, she went to Assemblies of God back home, in Jos precisely, and she goes to choir practices, and I would go with her, and I'll come home and try to practice in front of a mirror and just see if I could hold any note and all of that stuff. But I think it really launched forth for me when we had a crusade in the village crusade.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to go up there and sing. I was like, sure. And I went up and I was like, praise the Lord, this hallelujah is too small for my big Jesus. And everybody was like looking at me like, who is this, little kid? But I mean, it kind of grew that way. But for me, the experience I have in a place of worship is just, it's amazing. I can't describe it. I can't explain it. It's just you feel that ambience. You feel the embrace of God just around you. And that's really, it for me. It keeps me sane. I know a lot of people are like, how can you do this and do this and do that? But I'm like, this is what keeps me sane. This is what helps me put everything that I do together. Yeah. So gospel music, it's really powerful tool for me. I listen to every kind of music. I know some people are like, oh, you're a Christian, you shouldn't listen to it. I listen to every kind of music because I believe it's talent, it's gift. So I listen to every kind of music. I would prefer some of them not to be as vulgar as they tend to be. But I get inspired by any kind of music, just the beats and everything. Sometimes the lyrics, not so much, but the beats and everything. So for me, it's just home for me. It's a place of connection. It's a place of empowerment. And so, yeah, if I had to do music, it was going to be gospel music.
Awesome. That's great. And basically, from your bio, I found out that you do many things. You're a husband of one man. Wife of one man. And, different things are going on in our world. I'm sorry. Wife of one man, and you have 2 children.
Yes.
You're also in the U.S. Air Force.
Yes.
And then you are a PhD in medicinal chemistry.
Yes.
Wow. And you still find time for music.
Because that's the only thing that keeps me sane. That's the only thing that grounds me. Like, my mom says something to me. She's like, and she was talking to a friend of hers. Like, oh, Dora is so sick, she can't make it. She's like, is there going to be a mic there? Will there be music there? She's going to be fine. So, I mean, it's the thing that, people don't understand it, but like, just give me a mic and I'm singing and I just feel the presence of God. I'm good. I can go another 24 hours with no sleep. It's just my high,
That's awesome.
That's why I get stuff. So yeah, I always tell people, my dad was like, you have to be a doctor. So I made sure I was a doctor. Not the guy that you wanted, but a doctor is a doctor. Hey, so I did that for my dad, definitely. The military, when I came into this country, they're like, oh, you have a military face. You should join the military. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do that. But I mean, it did help with school, and that's the one thing I love about this country, just the opportunities that I've been able to get, living in America, coming from Nigeria. Yeah, I'm a Nigerian. Nigerian American, they say. So, all of that stuff, but getting married and deciding earlier on to be married, to stay married. Yeah. So I have to do my due diligence to make sure that I'm not a divorcee. Yeah. So I have to take time for my husband. And then for my kids, I had a very long break. Actually, my second daughter, she was the kind of her story. The song I wrote, When I Call You Papa, kind of broke in Nigeria a couple of years back, was because of, waiting on the Lord for a second kid. So if I waited that long and I prayed to God that long for this child to come, I'm going to spend some time with them. So those are my guiding principles. I try to do what I can do. I believe in the 5-talent person, If God has given you the gift, then He believes you have the capacity, to execute. So I'm just asking for His grace, but I try to, be level-headed. I try to not overdo it. Try to take breaks when I need to take breaks, just for my sanity. But then, just taking music out of that, everything will crash. That's just the reality. Oh,
wow, that's pretty cool. Hey, everyone, we have Adora in the studio, and you're listening to her music in the background. She's an amazing artist. She has her albums here, so we'll be giving to a few people online. If you make a comment, we'll consider giving you one. In addition to Adora tonight, we're going to be addressing some issues and some things that have happened over the past few weeks. And sadly enough, one of the things we're going to be talking about is Anthony Bourdain, an amazing guy who brought us joy in our homes. He had a show on CNN. Carl?
Yeah, he was an amazing guy. Our Sunday evenings in my house was basically my wife and I putting the kids in bed and going to some world or some region to experience the food and the people and the passion and the cultures that he so beautifully brought to our living room. I was shocked to hear it, but sometimes shooting star will always blaze and fade away very quickly. Sometimes it happens that way, and for what he's done, we're grateful. May he rest in peace.
Amen, amen. And Tony Bourdain was the man who brought us the famous Parts Unknown show. And a few weeks back, we talked about purpose. We talked about what it is we're doing, and I kind of addressed how people try to entrap what they were sent to the earth to do with what happens in the four walls of a church. Whereas God has sent every one of us here with a specific assignment to keep his people going. God says, John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. He wanted us to continue living and continue living better and better. 50, 60 years ago, some people pretty much just died of cold. So the people who gave us the heaters that we use, God sent them for a specific purpose. And it's obvious that God sent Anthony Bourdain to earth to give us joy. What are your thoughts on that? I saw that you made a video on social media about suicide.
Yes, I made a video. By the way, part of a lot of the things that I do too is I'm a youth minister at my church, coordinator for YASM. So YASM is youth group out of Redeemed Christian Church of God, which is a church I'm affiliated with. And while I'm at it, I might as well give a shout out to my church, Mercy Seat Chapel. I have a lot of young ones that maybe just because of the way, playful, tend to be playful, that just, I've kind of attracted them, and I try to check in with them because it's really important. I felt the need to make that video. But in his case, it was so untypical because he's someone that, he's living the life. You're expecting someone that is timid, look like they're depressed, and stuff like that. But he wasn't that kind of person. He explored life. He went around. He did a lot. So it was so untypical. And I remember a lot of my friends just texting me, Lagos, they're doing Nigeria, So, he did shine light in, to some of the parts of the world. So it was really sad. Yeah. And I felt like, we needed to talk about it. In my case, we sometimes we don't stop as gospel artists. We don't stop. We've lost a lot of gospel artists too to diseases and stuff like that. And so you were talking about, before we came on, about a discrepancy in your blood sugar just because you didn't eat. Mm-hmm. So, just taking a little bit of time, just taking care of us a little bit more, sometimes might do it. I'm not in any way trying to diminish the whole depression. I know it's serious, but I'm saying before you get to that depressed state, there's a lot of things you could do. Unfortunately, we're not connecting anymore as we used to. Everything is now text. We don't even stop to talk. We have
a responsibility. That week when it happened, I reached out to many people, friends and family, just to check on them and see what's going on, because you just never know. It's sad, but again, my perspective is he came to the world, he made an impact, and he's gone. Sometimes you live short, but you make an impact, and you're better off going quickly than living long and being a useless person.
Huge impact.
Christ was here for 33 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Anthony Bourdain, his soul rest in peace. He made a huge impact in our lives. He really represented even what the gospel to me is about liberty, about connectivity. He showed us how close and interconnected that we were, the types of food that people ate in Asia compared to the foods they ate in Africa, and it just brought families together to watch something decent on TV and just kind of expose the world to us. So to his family, our love goes out to them.
I would definitely say that the killings of some of those pigs and stuff grossed my kids out. So they're like, oh my God! That's where the meat comes from.
I know. Yeah. Anyway, so moving forward, I wanted to ask you, so as a woman and as a mother, how do you, I know you've talked about how you do it and how it's because of the love of music, but how do you balance all these things? Because many times when two people get married, a man and his wife, you guys are there for yourselves. You know what I mean? And being a wife is a separate job from being or being a dad is separate from being a wife or a husband. Right. How do you balance everything? You go to work, you do your military, you're an artist. How do you do it as a woman? Because a lot of people feel like the things around them slow them down. How do you cope as a woman?
I first of all told myself that people call it the black tax, they call it the woman tax, right. That it was not gonna, get the better part of me. It's like you're constantly trying to prove yourself at work, so you have to take work home to do more work so that you can really be the shining star. No, once I leave my office, that's it, because I'm about to switch modes and I'm doing something else. I'm becoming a parent, I'm becoming a wife. And that's like some of the things. Now, on whatever projects that I do, ministry-wise, oh my God, I've been blessed with the best husband. Wow. I cannot, that song, when I say Omaricha Bobo, he is Omaricha for real.
Wow, that's amazing.
He's really been there. But I think it does a lot, because, in my youth conversations with people that are about to get married, I say you have to talk about everything before you take that step. Yeah. Before we got married, he knew that I have this ambitious woman on my hands. She wants to do music. She's about to explode. She has a lot of talent in her. And he had to make that determination. Can I take this ride with her? Now, if we didn't have that conversation, maybe down the road there would have been issues.
Right. Yeah.
But first of all, knowing that, and he's kind of seen that I'm at my best. I'm much happier when I'm doing some of the things that I want to do, especially when it involves music. So he kind of got it, and he's like, okay, so what's the next step? And he helps me plan, especially on the finance part, because living in America, it's a lot. You're paying for mortgage, you're paying for this, you want your kids to have a good life. They're just not gonna. I have friends that come from Nigeria to Disney, and then my kids have not been there. So you have to plan for all of these things, and still saving for projects like putting on an album and stuff like that is a lot. So he helps me with that. And
that's awesome.
We have some people who are shouting out to you, Adora. Amy Belton says, "Hey, Adora, how are you?"
Hi, Amy.
Cindy Sammy, she says hello. She has a little purple heart.
Oh,
thank you. She's watching all the way from Trinidad and Tobago.
Oh, that's amazing. She's Trinidad. Fantastic. Good to see you.
Nice.
BB joined, and then if you're joining, please share. Come and join us. Talk about gospel. Enjoy Adora's album, and let's share the gospel today. Lots to talk about.
Cool. So the next thing I want to talk about is that a pastor named Jesse Duplantis went on air and publicly requested that. I don't know if he was requesting or he was saying God told him to tell us that he needs a fourth jet.
What happened to the three?
And the jet that he wants...
What happened to the three? Yeah.
They're still there. The jet that he wants costs $54 million. So, Carl, is it necessary? Is a jet necessary to preach the gospel? Is any man who is preaching the gospel that important that he has to be in 3 countries in one day?
Only he can answer that question, honestly. My answer, I don't think so. I don't think so. With the advent of not just TV, but transportation, and the argument would be, well, I want to really travel around the world without stopping on a place for fuel and for whatever it is. Okay. $50 million on the 4th jet. What of that $50 million to help empower the people in that country to build schools and education and hospitals and all those things? Would that not be a demonstration of the gospel versus the words that you speak instead? That's just a question I'm asking. I'm not saying it's up to him what's right or wrong, but that's what I was thinking about. You have 3, now you want a 4th. You have 1, 2, 3. Why can't you use the 3 that are there? So another $50 million one, which you're going to pay for, or someone's going to pay for it, to use for other things. I don't get this new prosperity gospel thing. I don't get it. I just don't. It's what's driving people away from the gospel.
Exactly.
And saying, why?
Yeah. And you know, obviously CNN carried it. Trevor Noah's show carried it, and they made a mockery of him. And I hope that teaches a lot of them that there's something actually wrong with what they're doing. Because I've said this so many times on this show, being a pastor, being an airman, a soldier, being a police officer, are all service-oriented occupations. If a police officer has a jet, Internal Affairs, AI, will investigate him to find out how, based on his salary, he was able to buy a $54 million jet.
Let's assume that they're giving the money to buy the jet. The fact that something is lawful doesn't mean it's profitable for the gospel, right? The question is, what perception are you giving? How does it enhance the brand of Jesus Christ or the value of the gospel to people who have not heard about it? Will they say, why is this guy paying 50 million for a jet, a fourth jet, when 90% of the population don't even earn up to it, 1/10 of that amount?
Yeah.
Or the country wants to go and visit are dying of poverty. Why? So the fact that it's lawful doesn't mean that it's profitable for the kingdom of the gospel. But again, it's a question for him and between him and God. If God told him to do that, maybe I should be talking to God some more to give me a $100,000 vehicle to go and preach the gospel somewhere.
Adora,
I think.
do you want a jet?
Of course I do. I think there's a place for that. I just think that people have not been able to call time out and say, okay, this is it. I know there have been issues of the plane wouldn't fly. I mean, if you really wanted to really take the gospel to the ends of the earth, I can understand why you would need. That's what I'm saying. I understand why you would need a jet. If you need 4 though, that's kind of where I'm like, not so much. Now, are you replacing one of your jets with something that is more energy efficient? I don't really know what his.
So let's talk about a little bit why even one is necessary. So what Jesus did was that he taught people about the gospel and he told them to go do it. And he did his ministry for only 3 years and he was out. Mm-hmm. Being Jesus, he could have stayed here, bought sheep, so he can go to everywhere by himself and tell people. The word of God says that he has poured his spirit upon all flesh. Right. Yes. So what people need is just the knowledge of Christ in order to do it in their own different locations.
The argument you get back is that, there are CEOs of global corporations who are also flying around just around the whole world to go and deliver, meet their board.
A pastor is not a CEO.
Right, but let's even assume
but
that.
For ministry, I know there's.
Let's even assume that he needs to fly, right? Mm-hmm. 4. I mean, come on, you have 1, 2, 3. You want a 4th one? Yeah, I think a video they showed pictures of 1, 1, 1. Said he wants believing God for another 4th one. Yeah. Sell the 3 and buy the 1 now.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I don't understand. Is it that he wanted more energy efficient one? Because I would this is fine.
I think he said that one can go longer range. You just have to stop somewhere for fuel in another country. You can put the fuel from his airport in his yard, in his ranch, and from there fly out to whatever country.
I think actually 2 is a good number. One that is like a smaller one that doesn't need too much gas. If you want to go somewhere.
I disagree.
And then the bigger one to haul because I mean, okay, I have a little bit of knowledge about missions, right? And I know that sometimes when they are going, they haul, just like using the C5s and all of that, aircraft to carry Humvees and carry. There's just times that when you even to be effective in that place you're going, there are no cars there. You might need to carry certain things. So I see a place for it.
Adora, is that the gospel?
To even do the mission work there.
Because the gospel that we knew and grew up with, even in the days of the old English hymns, those guys were almost, for the work of the Lord, they were almost penniless. I'm not saying you should be broke. But the fact that you want to go to one place in Borno State and carry your whole entourage of food and cars and people on a private jet, it's ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous. Is that the gospel?
But again, you know why I know that it's not just a missions thing, because there are videos of Jesse Duplantis talking to Kenneth Copeland, I believe, and they're talking about how when you're in a plane, you're closer to God, and they don't want to be stuck in a long tube with demons.
I don't.
Okay.
You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wish we could play these videos, but that's what they're saying out of their mouth. It's not an issue of we need to go do missions work. You know what I mean? That's not it. They're saying,
here's how bad it gets, right? So I've heard this argument from some Christians who say, well, back in the Jesus day, when he was coming into to Jerusalem on Palm Sunday, when they laid crown front of the donkey, that he was riding on a donkey. And in those days, a donkey is equivalent to a Mercedes-Benz nowadays. That's how much they're willing to justify this behavior. And not say, whoa, time out. What was Jesus' principle about wealth and the use of wealth? What was the principle? What was his direction towards that? What did Paul say? Silver and gold not have, but by the grace of God, take and walk. And so, I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't have even work. If you don't have work, you want. But for Abba.
Yeah, that's definitely.
It's like saying, I have 3 BMWs. I need that new BMW so that I can ride over the rocks that may be too big. Come on now, for what purpose? For the same gospel?
Yeah, I'm going to see if our producer can play that video. And I just want to give a big shout out to a few people online. We have Odoa Onwusu, and she's hitting us up all the way from Alaska. Thank you so much, Mrs. Nwosu, for hitting us up. We also have Matt Durante. He has a comment here, and he says, so many people of the cloth took vows of poverty. To me, it's a question of who actually owns the property. Interesting. Wow. So that means if the ministry belongs to the church and is being used for the church, then it's valid. You can also comment again to let me know if that's exactly what you're saying. Ms. Nwosu says, I saw the video. And we have a link that's been sent to the producer, so maybe he can play that video. We also have Tai says, why can't they charter planes when needed? Yeah, exactly. Why pay for pilot maintenance, fees, cost of parking, and everything else? So Matt is saying exactly that's what he's saying.
And to his point, I mean, today you have so many companies that are specialists in chartering aircraft. You have time, you can hire time, you can hire a plane, you can get it done. Why for?
Exactly.
You know why for? Because he wants to show off to the whole world that yes, we have 4.
Yeah, and it's about.
But again,
I know that there are some people that use their planes every day, so chartering a plane might not be.
So what I'm asking is, okay, let's compare. We said something about a CEO at the beginning of this year. Jeff Bezos of Amazon in January had already made $10 billion. And why people like that make a lot of money is because they provide solutions.
Well, the argument, the solution is the salvation to get to heaven.
No, Jesus already did that. So we're repackaging it and reselling it. That's what's happening.
But they'll say that
when someone is hungry, the best way to get to them for the gospel is to provide what they need. Mm-hmm. Then let's talk about it. I can't be hungry and try to preach Jesus to me, So I feel like in some of these places, we don't know the full story. Some of these places, they do require to carry a lot of equipment. And what better way for them to carry it that way? What I'm saying is there's always a cutoff. And I think people are really pushing it.
But I don't think that the jet he wants to get a Gulfstream G5, whatever it is, not one for equipment. This is a luxury. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. This is a luxury private jet that he can fly. And one of those ones like Gulfstream G500, that is luxury, flies at Mach 0.9 and 45,000 feet, really luxurious. Not one of those where, like a cargo C5
Doesn't he make any money? Why can't he buy it himself?
Yeah.
Well, why buy it when he can make people can fund it?
He can make people pay. Again, how are they making money? Anyway, we're going until.
For me, again, CDs, I mean, Mike, you asked a question, and it's my own humble opinion about it. I don't think you need 4.
Yeah,
I think you can have one that you can manage and use. You have to stop for fueling somewhere else. Then stop for fueling somewhere else. But 4,
come on. At least trading the 3 to get one.
Yeah, if we can justify one, then Jesus should have stayed here and kept on preaching till forever. But the whole idea is that we're supposed to teach one another so that we can spread the gospel. That's the idea. It's not for me. It's not being a pastor is not a rock star.
Like the problem is that this is going to confuse people. People who have never heard of the gospel it's going to confuse you and say, is this what Jesus was all about? Right? That's the issue. It's going to confuse you when we're rich, but there's modesty in everything that we do.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I mean, Paul wasn't poor until he decided to give up all his lawyering. You know, these guys were not too poor, but there's always modesty.
Okay, so I think our producer is going to send. What do we have?
The video you requested for.
Okay, so we're going to play the video of Jesse
okay.
Duplantis talking. So let's watch it now.
See it? Okay. 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 No.
Yeah, I don't think we have volume on it.
Anyway, I think it might capture the essence of what we're trying to talk about, really.
Yeah.
Again, it's up to him. There we go.
Amos chapter 6.
Okay.
Brother Copeland, I was flying home from a meeting, and I had come out of a glorious meeting. I had just been, me and Creflo Dollar were preaching. Had a glorious meeting. So I was, for lack of a better way to say it, I was spiritually high. People were saved, touched the flesh. Got in the plane that God so graciously gave us. We're flying home. As I was going home, the Lord, real quickly, he said, Jesse, do you like your plane? Now, you know, I thought that's an odd statement. I said, well, certainly, Lord. He said, do you really like it? And I thought, well, yes, Lord. Then he said this, so that's it? I didn't know how to handle it from him. I went, what? He said, you're going to let your faith stagnate? And when he said that, that shocked me.
Oh, we lost William again.
Yeah.
That was my phone the whole time.
My seatbelt, my plane, I stood up. My pilot looked at me and said, do you need something? I said, no, I'm talking to God right now. He went back to flying. I said, Lord, I don't think I was letting my faith stagnate. He said, so this is all I could ever do. I said, you're trying to tell me something. He said, go to the book of Amos. So if you're in the book of Amos, I want to read the scripture.
May I interrupt you there
Yes,
for
sir.
a second? You could have done that on an airline.
No, sir. No way.
Stand up and say, what'd you say, Lord?
No.
Okay, no, yeah. And the guy sitting over there saying, what the hell does he think he's doing?
You can't do that. Can't do that.
No. This is so important. And those of you that are just now coming into these things, in the first place, Jesse and I and others, Keith Moore and Creflo and all of us, the world is in such a shape, we can't get there without this.
That's right.
We've got to have this. We would have, the mess that the airlines are in today, I would have to stop. I'm being very conservative. At least 75 to 80, more like 90% of what we're doing, because you can't get there from here.
It's impossible.
So and this was such a good illustration. The Lord impressed me. That's why we're on that airplane. We can talk to God.
Lord
We
God.
can. It's when I was flying for Oral Roberts, Brother Deweese, my boss on the airplane, he said, "Now, Kenneth, this is sanctuary. It protects the anointing on Brother Roberts." And he said, "You keep your mouth shut. Don't talk to him unless he talks, because when he's on a meeting, he doesn't talk to anybody but God." Now, Oral used to fly airlines,
Right.
but even back there then, man, it got to the place where it was agitating his spirit. People coming up to him. He had become famous, and they wanted him to pray for him and all that. You can't manage that today.
Right.
This dope-filled world.
Right.
Get in there, get in the law.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess that's what Jesus would have done amongst the thorns of people that he milled with, and the people that he milled around him to, like the woman with the issue of blood who touched his garment and etc. It's just confusing. It really is. This is where we are today in the gospel. This is where we are. We're talking about planes and being in a plane by itself to talk to God. What about Paul and Silas in the jail in Rome? What happened there? Were they in a plane? I mean, come on. Let's just cut to the chase and stop this merchandising of what's going on. We're in a dangerous place in the world right now, where it's harder to preach the gospel to people who don't even know the gospel when things like this are out there. And that's the truth. That's the truth.
Yeah.
Some people say, don't touch my anointed, don't. Right, tell that to Herod and the Pharisees. Well, they're not the anointed of the day.
Yeah.
So,
Ola Bingpe Ruth is saying on Facebook, she says, even if it is your money as Christians, be modest, especially when it is not your money. Then you must be modest. These are the reasons why we cannot continue in the path of the apostles of old, who sold their properties, not tithe, not a percent. They gave all they had, because they were sure no one will misappropriate the funds, and actions were spirit-led, not based on desires. That's really, really important. You have some important points there, but even during the times of the apostles, they were being oppressed. So they were gathering together to take care of one another and take care of themselves.
I mean, Mike, going back, I remember when I got saved, I got born again in 1999. It's almost how many years now? How many years is that? Almost 20 years, right?
Yeah.
If this was happening at the time I was getting born again, I wouldn't have gotten born again. Because this wouldn't have convinced me that this God that they are worshiping is a God who really cares about me, who really cares about things that I care for, who is just and faithful to me. Even though may not have any money or any possessions, he still cares for me. I wouldn't have done it. I would have been one of those who say, you know what, this is your God, I don't want this your God. It's any God that I know. But the God that I know is a God who came down from heaven onto earth as a poor little baby boy in the manger and died for the whole world to save it. That's the God that I know.
Wow.
Not the God that these people are preaching.
Awesome.
Lots of people on airplanes and private jets.
Everyone, we have Adora in the studio, and she has her brand new album here. It's not really brand new, but it's the newest album that she has. It's called Nothing Can Hold Me Down. And we're going to be giving the first one away to Olabimpe Ruth. A really, really good comment. It was really long too, so you're going to get a free CD, and we're going to have Adora sign it for you. So you can leave your address in the message for Afrobeat Live. Just type your address there, name and address, and we'll send you your CD. Thank you so much for leaving the comment, Ruth.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, moving right along.
It's tough, Adora, and we talk about this all the time. So, I mean, it's controversial, but I'm not tired.
I know. So, Adora, I wanted to ask you, so as a woman in the music industry, in the gospel music industry, how has it been for you? And compared to your male counterparts, being an independent artist, how have you been taken with your work?
Ooh, I'm gonna get in trouble. Okay, if I have to be frank, I think that kind of in that contemporary Afro music space,
Okay.
just the women are constantly looking for validation. And I think why it is they're not giving opportunities. I mean, I don't know, I'm not a feminist. My friends characterize me as that, but I wouldn't consider myself a feminist. But I just think there's something wrong with you pick up a flyer and there's no female on it. What message are you trying to send?
Wow.
That no female is good enough. And so
But this is not only a gospel issue. This is
that's
an
what I'm
issue
saying.
around the whole world, around everything.
But we were talking about being Christ-like, and I mean, if there's going to be any difference going on, it should be within the Christian community. That's what I think. You know, we should be the ones saying this is how things should be done. And I think there's this mindset that, oh, if you're a male artist, there's definitely anointing. There's something greater about you. And if you're a female, so women are constantly struggling, then they have to wait and wait and wait. Oh, okay, so I have kids, and then there's pregnancy, and there's this. And before you know it, time is spent. And you see people doing music in their 50s. What about all that talent for 20-some years that was just kicked in there because nobody was available to help pull it out and stuff like that. So, and I think that the women, they eat themselves up. I'm sorry, but they don't really. That's why I love Isabella Melodies. Oh my God, that woman, God bless her.
Yeah.
Like she figured out, when I spoke to her, the first time I spoke to her, she said, you know what, it was rough. I try to connect with some of these men out here, and they were like, you know what, almost like you're trying to steal my shine. And I'm like, listen to any old classic, Nigerian music, even the one Uche did double.
Yeah.
I've heard double in different variations of double. But anytime you hear it, it's just rejuvenating because there's just something about gospel music. There's so much space in the sky. We
Yes.
cannot collide. But for some reason, there's this thing about, you're trying to steal my shine. And she made it a point for her to make sure she encouraged every woman coming up.
Fantastic.
Like since I moved to Maryland, I feel like there's a cabal here. I've been trying to break through. I've tried, the first time I got here was sending texts, oh, let's hang out, can we do lunch, like literally people will just not respond to you. And then it's like, oh, if you're a Marylander, we've accepted you as a Marylander, then we are like in our little clique. So in that little clique, everybody shows up for that. I feel like
I'll tell you this. I listen to your songs just now, and I'm really blessed. It's pure. It is wonderful, clean, fresh. It is just anointed. Really, it really. So don't let anybody try to outclick you. You're already in God's clique.
Right.
I know.
Yeah. I'm not bothered by that much. I'm just saying, can you imagine what it's doing? How it's stifling the growth.
Yeah.
Even with it's like there's already a war in my head in terms of the female artists getting their accolades. Remember this whole give me
the
accolades. Yeah.
Okay.
But even within the women themselves, there was a time I posted something I'm like, this sister is doing something. Let's go out and just support.
Yeah.
You don't have to be on the lineup to support.
Yeah.
Just show up there, clap for her. It helps the person keep going. So I do have a mouthful to say on this, but I'll stop right here.
Yeah. That's cool. That's awesome. And I totally understand. It's really, really difficult because people look at you. They're like, oh, where's your husband? Oh, look at your dress. There's just so many things that people come at women with that is totally unfair. But my thing still is that if you keep on pressing on and producing quality material like this, they will have no choice but to accept what you're doing. And that's just the bottom line.
Your gift to make room.
When it's good, and people would want to listen to your music, buy your music, have you at several events, and I think that's the only way to break it. It's just like how they say black people have to work 10 times harder probably than a white person to show. Same thing with women. It's unfair. They have to do so much, work so hard to get there.
And then the misuse and abuse. It's sad. I go to some churches and you see this one lady that has been there. She's always there for choir practice. Church is doing this. She takes off, but this person has so much talent. Why doesn't the church support this person to release a song?
I blame the woman. I blame the woman. I blame the woman. If you have been going somewhere and they don't appreciate your gift, then get out. Look, here's my principle. Never go or stay where you're tolerated. Only go where you're celebrated.
That's right.
A man makes that decision quicker than a woman.
If you keep that praise, because women are looking for validation where they shouldn't be looking for validation. When you look for validation where you're not supposed to get validation, you get abuse.
That's true.
But if you go where you're celebrated, even for what you do small, people will find your gift and to shine. So, women and men too, don't go where you're tolerated. Don't stay there. Go to where you are celebrated.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I want to thank everyone who is listening online. We're going to take our last hot topic for tonight, and it is the thing where Christians say, Carl is my pastor. And so when I'm going to pray in my house, I'm going to say, the God of Carl. The God of Carl should come and solve this problem for me. Does that show understanding as who we're supposed to be as New Testament believers? Should we be calling someone else's God? Because take, for example, in Nigeria, there's a news going out that's buzzing that somebody was resurrected from the dead. And the story goes that this young man his brother had passed, so he goes to the morgue late at night, and then he gets there and he prays for his brother to wake up from the dead. He doesn't. Then he now says, the God of Oyedepo. And all of a sudden, the guy jumps up and sneezes, and he's now back to life.
How many years? How many days of death?
It was number of hours, that's what they said.
Okay.
So, again, what is the point of calling the God of someone else?
I've debated this thing in my mind for a long time. I can understand somehow where this comes from. And it comes from really Exodus, when Moses went into the wilderness and God, the burning bush, and God told him, take off your shoes. And says, who are you? He says, I'm the God of your father, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But the reason God said that was because Moses did not know who this God was. And so God had to introduce Moses to a God who his fathers worshipped. So unfortunately, people have used that premise to say the God of Pastor X, Pastor Y, and Pastor Z. Right now, I can understand certain parts of the way you're trying to break something where that the person has no knowledge or context for. But once you introduce that person to God, then that person no longer becomes the God of Pastor X. It's now the God of my God, Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Shalom, the Lord Jesus Christ. That is my God. This is my pastor I go to for counsel, but this is my God. Once you introduce, then you move on. You can't be saying the same God of my pastor when he's introduced you to the God, and you keep going back to that person, and that person becomes your God.
Okay, so
you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I understand where it comes from in Exodus, where God was introducing Moses to himself using his historical lineage of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Yeah. Wonsu says, Odunayo Wonsu says again, no, pray to God yourself. I can't vouch for anyone, pastor or anybody.
Right.
He is our God. So we go to him directly.
But again, just the point is, because it has been preached wrongly, and people have used that Exodus text as a precept to empower themselves as a God of somebody.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, okay, I introduce you to God as your counselor, but do not look at me as a God. Look at God as your God. I am just a human being like you.
Yes, that's right. Tomi Fanilola also says, I agree. So let me just highlight to you why. Because sometimes when we hear these things, we have certain angles about it. So if somebody did this in the secret and it stayed in the secret, we'll understand. But the pastors of the church read out the testimony and made sure they emphasized that the gentleman called the God of Oyedepo. That is where it is wrong, because it is marketing. They are trying to market a brand to associate this brand with resurrecting people.
I mean, I don't know, but maybe the person's confused with Exodus again, and they haven't got clarity on, look, a man cannot be your God. A man can introduce you to God, right? And once he introduces you, it's your responsibility to connect with God himself. If God will himself connect with you,
that's right,
and begin a relationship with you, you don't need that person anymore. Except for counseling on things that you're confused about.
Understanding and knowledge.
Right. So maybe he's still, person is still saying, well, this is like the God of Oyedepo is the one I went to, so that becomes, it's almost like...
No, but what I'm saying is, if somebody told me that they prayed and they said the God of Michael, I will not come here and tell you that Brother James prayed and said the God of Michael and God resurrected him. Do you get what I'm saying? So I'm saying the person who is ignorant, but the ones who know, who are supposed to understand the Bible, are not supposed to repeat it. Good. Oh, brother James prayed for his brother and his brother resurrected. Can we leave it at that?
I mean, it's a tough one, though.
We can't, because that's not the way the business works.
Well, but I guess if I ask a different kind of question, what is wrong with someone making reference to the God of someone? So in the let me explain. Let me explain myself.
And I can understand what you.
I'm just saying. I don't think they're saying that person is a God. They are saying the God of this person. What I'm saying that is, I myself have prayed that way. I don't know, I kind of revere my mom. I see her as like next to God. She can do no evil in my eyes. Not because she's my mom, but I know how much she spends in prayer. And sometimes I feel unworthy, of God's whatever. And I'm like, God, just if you can only listen to my mom's prayer and have mercy on me. Yeah. So I can see.
I can understand.
And I feel like when someone is saying the God of this person, I get Michael's point of why did they have to make that conscious? I don't know if they were doing a recorded speech, or is it just that They wanted to emphasize that, oh, if you don't say the God of this person, then this miracle will not happen.
Correct. So that's where we have to distinguish between both. You understand?
Yes.
The fact that if someone is coming and saying, unless I pray that the God of Michael will answer me, unless I call Michael's name, I won't get answered prayer,
That's wrong. Yes.
But let's go back to the Old Testament when Lazarus was going to be resurrected, right? And that's when we're in the crowd watching this.
New Testament?
Right? So New Testament. And Lazarus was going to be resurrected after 4 days. We're in the crowd. And this guy called Yeshua, right? At that point in time, nobody knew he was. This guy called Yeshua was raising people from the dead. You say, man, the God of Yeshua did it all. Maybe if the God of Yeshua can raise me, then maybe this God of Yeshua can also help me do my own. But once you're introduced to the God, then it's no longer the God of Yeshua, it's a God of
You
God.
too.
It's my God, my own Father, my own relationship, my Abba Father,
Okay.
my one and only Savior. That's where it is.
Okay, so
Through Jesus Christ.
I'm going to read a few verses in John 14, verse 20. So I'm going to start from 15. It says, if ye love me, keep my commandments. And I will pray the Father, and he shall give you another comforter, that he may abide with you forever. Even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because he seeth him not, neither knoweth him. But ye know him, for he dwelleth with you, and shall be in you. I will not leave you comfortless, I will come to you.
Right.
Yet a little while, and the world seeth me no more. But ye see me, because I live, ye shall also live. At that day ye shall know that I am in my Father, and ye are in me, and I in you. So if we read through the New Testament, we are one with the Father. Everything here he said was a direct correlation with I will know you, you are in me, I am in you. There's no space here for another man to stand in front of you on behalf of you to him.
But we you know how did we start off Christianity? At Catholicism, right? And in Catholicism,
The Father,
it's,
the wife, right?
you go through Mary to Jesus. So what I'm saying is that
wrong.
it's been indoctrinated in our people that person, that someone either very close to God, someone that is either very close to God, or someone that is really spiritual might stand a better chance of receiving God receiving something on your behalf. And I think it's wrong, but unfortunately,
again, I go back to the point about if somebody is introducing God to you, the person does not know who this God is. The person knows that you introduced him or her to the God. I can understand that piece, but that's not a perpetual thing that happens for the person
forever,
right? Like for example, I read Exodus chapter 3, verse 6. God says, "Do not come any closer." God said, "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground." Then God said, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." And at this, once Moses recognized who was speaking to him, he hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. So once Moses understood, God never came back to him and said, "I'm the God of your father, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." He already knew that already.
Yeah.
Now it was about, you are now my God, how do I get my people out of Egypt?
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
What you're saying, Michael, this guy keeps going back and saying, "I'm
Yes, they keep going back.
Which is error?
It's a daily thing, and one other point people don't understand is that sin was already taken care of. Jesus Christ destroyed sin, and he fulfilled the law. The whole reason why he was killed was because of religion and tradition. They killed him because he messed up their business. Because the way he made it seem by calling himself the Son of God meant that people didn't have to come to them every day to say, "Oh, forgive me my sins. I kissed somebody. I slapped somebody. I was drinking," or whatever it is they were doing. They didn't want that to happen. I'm going to read one comment here and give away a few more CDs. Tommy Fanilola says, "A lot of Nigerians do idolize pastors, and sadly many don't even know God themselves. And to be quite honest, it's the way some of these men of God come across to the congregation." Thank you so much for that. Tommy, you're getting a CD from Adora. The title of the CD is "Nothing Can Hold Me Down." It's a pretty good CD. If you want your CD, just leave a direct message in Messenger to Afrobeat Live, and we'll get your address and we'll mail off your CD
Francis
to you.
just joined us, and joined us, Naboth joined us as well. I hope you're enjoying the conversation here on ABL Gospel Live.
Cool. So, but unfortunately, we're almost at the end of the show tonight. We're just going to give Adora a chance to tell us if we want to find you, people want to reach you, how they can reach you, and, you know, get to know more about the things that are upcoming for you.
So my Facebook is Adora Sings. Twitter and Instagram, Adora Music, ADAORA Music. And I was going to make an announcement, I did say that.
Okay.
I have my praise worship concert coming up August 11th, and I'm going to be on stage with Joe Praise. We've been working on this for a while, so I'm really excited that, you know, God has allowed things to fall in pleasant places. For me, I do have a couple of singles coming out. One with, should I say?
Go ahead, yeah.
Should I say? Yeah. With Papa Son, and then
From Jamaica.
Yes. And then another one with Jumbo, of course, everybody loves Jumbo, and Isabella Melody. So it's been really busy. I know it's taken me some while, but I really want to make sure that anything I put out is on point and good, and so I take my time to do it. So please reach out to me. As I said, I love talking about life in general. I'm a mom, I'm a daughter, I'm a wife, science, military, kind of like some people call me the Renaissance woman, but you know, I like to talk about any and everything. So reach out to me, and God bless you, and thank you guys so much for having me. This was just really amazing, and just having these conversations is really great.
Awesome. And then 1 second, please. So before we go, we're also going to give a CD to Odoayo Wosu, I think it was Ruth, Odoayo Wosu, and Tommy Fanilola. We're going to get you CD, so please send us your information and we will send you your CD. Before we close out, Carl, you have any last words?
Yeah, I would just say that this day that we're living in today, just hold fast to the faith that you know is true. There'll be lots of people who come as wolves in sheep's clothing. Hold faith to the faith that you know is true, and all these too shall pass, as the Bible has spoken.
Awesome. Say a few words about immigration.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on now about immigration, where they're basically people who are leaving countries where they're under persecution, so-called. They come here, they're separating children from parents. My question to you is that, and they claim it to be biblical. My question to you is, what would Jesus have done in that case? When you answer that question, then you can judge what is right and what is wrong.
Cool. So someone is requesting that you sing us out.
Oh my God. Okay.
So please, a few lines before you go.
There's this song that I heard 2 weekends ago. And I really love the song. It's by Isabella. It says, Halle, 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 Halle. Halle, 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 Halle. Hallelujah. Halle, 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 Halle. Halle, 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 Halle. And I sing this song because no matter what we do here,